It's Wealth Our Way Wednesdays. You're tuned in to the WOW Network. Let's get it. Long story. Where do I start? Let's begin with the interesting part. Mean streets, eroded defeat is what taught me to speak from the heart. Many choices, few of them good. That's how they keep us all trapped in the hood. If I could write a rule book for my people, I thought we could escape from there where we stood. So here I am giving content to you along that with what you should do. I'm here to speak wealth to provide you help to get it started for your family yourself. So sit down, turn up the sound, lay back with your feet off the ground. You've tuned in to the best in the streets. Wealth away, I have the world at your feet. Let's get it. Financial Power Hour.
What's good, everybody? It's your main man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I got to tell you, if you peeped the earlier edition program today, 15 Minutes of Finance, you saw I was not groomed. I slid off to my man Detroit, got the fresh, beard faded, everything tightened up, because the reason I had to do it, y'all know I don't care about the appearance all that much, but the reason I had to do it, because I got the pure essence of sexiness coming on the show in a minute. My man D West, he don't ever come through unless he, suited and booted and always trying to be the cutest. So I had to make sure I got right for him. And then my man Keith Lewis, we just met. But this cat, I feel like me and him go back like, bell bottoms and 8-tracks. It's going to be a great show tonight as we talk about fathers. We're talking about the dollars and cents of being dad. It's Father's Day month. It's the month of June. It's my birthday month. What's crazy, my barber, Detroit, who normally takes about 15 to 20 minutes to do my whole situation, took the full hour, which drives me crazy because he kept pulling the clippers away from me to talk to me about his life. But guess what he wanted to talk about? Being dad. It was crazy. His 2 kids were there, and he was talking about the struggles he's having with his daughter. And I said, nothing but God, because I'm about to do a show on this. He said, make sure you send me the link. And, so you're probably seeing this, Detroit, what's good? And you tighten me up. So don't take a whole hour next time, bro. The reality is that I'm bringing on 2 dynamic brothers, so let's get right to it. First and foremost, my man Keith Lewis. Now, Keith is a certified management accountant. And I tell you, cats, I keep it funky on 15 Minutes of Finance. I know a lot about finance, but I don't know everything about finance. I'm going to have the brother tell me what a certified management accountant is, because I don't even know. Brother Keith, welcome to the show.
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Man, it's all love. I appreciate your presence today. You're part of the Financial Power Hour, which moves my heart and makes you Wealth Our Way family now. So thanks for being with us, bro.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry
for having me.
Sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to tell you this. I need you to tell the people who you are, because I get the bio and I could read it, but you're going to do a better job bringing yourself out than I can. So tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Got it. No problem, man. Yeah, so Keith Lewis, native New Yorker. Now I'm living in PA. Getting a lot of love out here. Been out here the past couple years. I actually work in finance. My background has been around finance my entire life. I'm currently at Temple doing my MBA. Go Owls. You know how that goes.
You?
Yes, sir. CMA. So I'm certified management accountant. I became certified in 2018. And I currently work at JP Morgan in the tech finance space.
Love it. So the next brother I'm bringing out, and you even saw in the intro that he was in a previous show. So he's already Wealth Our Way fam. He's one of Philly's greatest. I've known this cat. We never got the chance to break bread tight when we first rapped, but we used to meet over at Suleiman's networking events. And then I was just blessed to be able to really build a better relationship with him, have him on the show. I've been on his show. He's run for political office of late. He's a man of many, many things. The talented Mr. West. D, what's going on with you, baby?
Man, life is good, man. I can't complain at all, man. What's up with you?
I'm all good, man. I saw you with your young lady, with the daddy-daughter date on the plane. Where you take Shorty?
Oh, we're right now. We're in Atlanta hanging out. She still has a lot of friends and family down here. So, I'm Daddy Uber. So, earlier in the school year, I was like, "What are we doing this summer?" She was like, 2 things. Can we do ATL and can we do Jamaica? I'm Jamaican, so I love the fact that she embraces. No, put the guns down. Put the guns down. Tank. Just because you tank don't mean you got to pull the pistols out. Anyway, But no, just so we were just talking about that. I'm here in ATL, just hanging out, just being Daddy Uber, doing all the things, and also making sure in between those visits, spending a lot of daddy daughter time. So I'm happy to be here.
I love that. Ironically, I'm down here in the general area of Atlanta right now. I'm in Alpharetta, and once again, shout out to my groomer and great barber extraordinary, Detroit. He has a shop, Detroit to Atlanta, out here. Actually, crossed the line and get into Norcross to get to his shop. But I love the A, man. I love it down here. My kids are down here, so that really makes it special. And when I say my kids, actually all my kids, my oldest has returned to Atlanta. She went to University of Georgia for undergrad, got 2 degrees, and then dipped back up top. And now she's just wrapping up her first of 2 summer internships with one law firm down here. She's going up to Philly to do her second internship. And then, God willing, she's going to take the gig with the one that she went to down here, and all of them be in GA, and it'll be really dope.
Wow.
So brothers, like the name of this episode is the dollars and cents of being dad. I try to be cute with the word sense, and of course related to finance, but we're going to talk about a lot more than the money and the cost of being dad. We're going to talk about the emotional toll, the emotional commitment. These social media streets are real messed up these days, and there's a huge gender divide, especially in the Black community. Seems like we're at war. Women hate the men hate the women. It's crazy. I want to have this show, this episode in particular, be a beacon for what Black men really are in the community, not what we're painted to be. Also, I know it's hard to talk about. Well, let me ask the question, not assume. Are both of you brothers, or either of you brothers, in any way estranged from any of your children's moms or your child's moms?
No.
Okay. So I am divorced from my ex-wife. We had 5 kids together. And then I have my oldest, the 30-year-old, was from a woman I dated when I was taking my little hiatus from college. So I'm not with either of the mothers of my children. And in the early stages of both of those, departures from that relationship, the parenting got very difficult. Like, it was very much like, oh, you're not going to be with me, then you don't need to be with she or he. It got real crazy real quick. With that being said, though, and we're going to get into that. We'll get into how it goes down for the brothers when that occurs. I don't want to follow suit with the stuff I'm seeing on social media and bash my ex or, anybody bash that. But let's keep it real as to what people go through. And I'm going to start with you, D. With you having to dip back and forth from north to south, how did your situation come about where you are spending time with your child, you go work, you do your thing? How did you piece together the relationship that you have with your daughter?
Well, it was a long story, but I'm going to keep it short. I had my daughter in my life, like where we were living in the same place, same space, for 13 years almost. So during that time, even when we first split, the mother and I split, I always took her to, I took her to praise dance. I took her to, to church. I took her to the children's choir. I also oversaw, a faith-based, community-based organization. So even when I would pick her up from school on Wednesdays, if I still have more meetings and things of that nature, she'd be in a preschool space, that type of thing. So, and I was a dance dad, meaning that, my daughter was heavy into dance. So I was the number one person taking her to all the dance, rehearsals, recitals, all that good stuff. And then of course, when she got interested in sports, followed suit, the same thing, right? So it just so happened that in my business sense, I was starting to network also in Georgia. And the year following, her mother was like, yo, I want to relocate. And I was looking at her like, well, that's good for you.
Shorty stay with me, but that's good for you.
That's good for you. I'm happy for you. I support, whatever. But then she said, where she was relocating to. And I was like, damn, I think this was something more of a spiritual thing. There was a reason why I was planting seeds. And so it was even interesting when we were looking at schools that she would attend in Georgia. And, I remember pulling up my boy, Mike, we pulled up to the school and we checked out the school and everything else. And you know, my daughter was like, "Dad, you know people everywhere." I was like, "There's not a place on this earth I won't make home for you." And I remember saying that right there in that parking lot. So, so when it came to like the balancing act, it was already automatic. You know, I took over the African American Chamber of Commerce for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. And one of the things I told them early was that I'm going to have to, you know, move around. I'm going to have to be a little bit more mobile. And that's what I did. Every month I found myself in Georgia. When COVID hit, 2020 was crazy. And it was for the first time I did not see my daughter inside of that month. I did, you know, so we were going crazy. And even though her mother and I at that time, we weren't, you know, we were never, you know, just buddies or anything like that. She was just like, one time she just called me. It was the second month of me not seeing my daughter. And, you know, it was real crazy. We didn't know what this thing COVID was. And all I remember her saying is, I don't recognize our daughter right now. And I was like, well, that's it. I got to figure it out. And I made my way down there, you know, shout out to my boys who extended their space so that I can be here for an extended period of time. I stayed the whole month of May.
That's what's
and
up.
Then going into June, I came, you know, I brought her back with me to Philly and so on and so forth. So, you know, when she was ready to go back to school, now it's still COVID territory. So she was like, I want to try out for the basketball team. I'm a dad. You already know. To hear those words, I got emotional.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. Eyes lit up and everything. I was like, you know what? Let's go. I checked with the school, see what their COVID protocol was. And, you know, we were there from, we came down from September through December and did our thing, you know, while she was going to school and everything remotely, but going to practice and, you know, tried out for the team, made the team. They won the chip. And I was happy that I made the sacrifices so that I can actually be there and demonstrate how much, you know, she means to me. So it became a bit of a balancing act, but it was really more, you know, daddy was winning than actually me as a business person and everything else. Now, I was doing everything I needed to do financially to make ends meet. There was nothing being skipped or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it definitely was something where if there was anything to demonstrate in crisis, it's to demonstrate how I'm a dad first.
No doubt. No doubt. I love that.
Yeah.
Brother Keith, tell me, how many kids do you have? Give me some background. What's good?
Absolutely, man. So I got 2 kids. My daughter, Ellington, is 7.
Love that name.
Yeah, man. And actually, my wife came up with it based off of Duke Ellington.
Okay.
And we just roll with the Ellington piece of it. And then my son, KJ, which is Keith Jr., he just turned 5 not too long ago. So it's been a roller coaster being a dad. I think, you know, it started out crazy nights, not getting much sleep, those type of things, to where now it's like they can move around, do what they need to do on their own. And you kind of don't feel as needed, right? You feel like, oh, wow, they kind of can move and do what they want. All they need is the permissions to turn on the TV, things like that. But I think one of the things that I try to do the most to make sure that I'm close with them is start to build those relationships, not only as like a dad and my children, but also as kind of like that guidance and that person that's there to listen to them when they have issues. In addition to that, me being a business person and having that business mindset, I always wanted them to understand entrepreneurship and things of that nature from a very early age. So actually my barber shop that's over in Norristown, shout out to Celebrity Styles, I told them about my children, the fact that I wanted to get a candy machine for them installed into the place for them to be able to see what entrepreneurship is, right? They have something that they're responsible for, something that's theirs, something that they need to have pride in. And, you know, they welcomed that opportunity, which was great for me. And now it's expanding out to other locations as well. So I try and just keep my ear to what their needs are and try and connect with them in the spaces that actually fit for them, and making sure that even though I have that work life and everything else that's busy, I make time for them to be able to kind of go get the ice cream and do those things that just a dad would do and hang out.
I feel you there. I tell people all the time that being an entrepreneur since November of 97, so a little over 25 years now. Of course, I make, you know, a nice living, and I'm blessed, and I'm thankful to the Lord for that. But that wasn't why I became an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur, I don't like listening to people, so let me keep that part funky. But the other part was the freedom. You know, I had children and planned on having more at the time. And to be able to say, oh, it's 1:15 and my kid needs me, let me go dip, and not have somebody say, you do at your desk or you think your lunch break. Like I had to be able to have that flexibility. And now my kids are almost grown. You know, I have one under 18, my son who's here with me now, he's in the condo. This is why I have this place in Atlanta. I decided 2 years ago to get a place down here as well as my place in Jersey, because I wanted to, my son was coming into his man years, his formative years, and he's playing ball, basketball, football, track. He does a little bit of everything. And I got to tell you, because the best time of my day, and I experienced it this morning. I try to, you know, he's of the age where he wants to call me soft all the time. He's going to get knocked out. So I try not to show too much softness in front of him. But I almost teared up today because I realized the best part of my day is driving him to school. The best part of my day is that it's a 7-minute ride from my crib to dropping him to football. So he's not in summer school, which is nothing wrong with summer school, but he's in football right now. I'm dropping him off every morning. And I rolled a stop sign this morning. And he's learning how to drive. He's got his learner's permit. So I'm on him crazy. I know he hates driving with me. And I rolled a stop sign coming out of my development. And he said, Dad, you rolled a stop sign. And my first thing was to be defensive. I was like, no, I didn't. And I said, wait, you was observing me. I wasn't. If I rolled it, my bad. I said, you know, don't do as I say, not as I do. Don't ever roll that stop sign. I said, I started telling him a story. So I want to get into this real quick. I was telling him a story about when I first got my license. 3 weeks after having my license, I was pulled over in Philly, 53rd and Hazel, Southwest Philly. Pulled over by a cop who said I rolled a stop sign. And I didn't believe I rolled that one either. And I'm pretty confident I didn't. I was a new driver. I was 10-2. And I said, you know, cops in Philly will pull brothers over for anything, especially if you're young and you don't know the law. You know, they know who they can play with and who they can't. I said, and then he said I was disturbing the peace or whatever, disorderly. And he took me to 55th and Pine, and I was fingerprinted and photographed and then let go. So what I did was bad enough to be taken in, but not bad enough to be kept. And I didn't realize the gravity of that at 16. But later on in life, you know, one of my dear friends lived in Winfield. Some young African-American children were going around the neighborhood, kind of just vandalizing cars, doing stuff young kids do, throwing rocks through windows. They broke her car window. She reported it to the police, and the police asked her to come in and look at mugshots to see if she could identify the kids that did this. So she's flipping through the book. She said, Tank, they gave me 4 big ass binders like this big. And on every page, there were about 12 kids. She said, I got through the second binder and I forgot all about what the kids look like and trying to identify them. I just start getting emotional trying to realize, where did they get all the pictures of these kids between 10 and 15? Like, what crimes could they have possibly committed? And I'm thinking of my running at 16. And so I was telling my son, this is some of the things that's wrong with our country. This is systemic racism. You know, the only chance you can be picked out of a lineup incorrectly for mistaken identity is to be in the lineup in the first place. Kids in Lower Merion and in Rittenhouse Square, when they break a window, they're not taken downtown and, you know, fingerprinted and their pictures taken. They'll walk back to their mom and say, take care of Timmy, don't do that. So that conversation, just watching him learn as I was talking and him asking the questions back. And I said to myself, being a dad is the most amazing part of my life. Like, I am literally pouring into this kid. He's having this conversation. If he's not having this conversation with me, who's he having it with? So I want to ask you guys, as the dad, what do you feel as though your primary role is in your child's life? So Keith, you went second last time. Let you go first this time. What do you feel like your primary role is?
Yeah, I think my primary role is to make sure that they have a sense of their own identity, right? To have the confidence that they need to have. Also building on like just foundational things. I think coming up, discipline was a big one for me, you know. So having my children in different entertainment type of sports, right? So I heard Donovan mention dance school. That's something that my daughter is in as well. But it teaches that discipline in terms of what they need to do in life and things of that nature. My son is in karate, teaching them those discipline, right? Getting that understanding, truth, integrity, honesty. Those are the things that I instill within my children and which I think are the most important, as well as speaking up for yourself and being able to validate what your rights are and what your feelings are, and not having to scapegoat those things for the sake of somebody else. I think those are some of the most important things as a dad, and being there, right? I think that a lot of times we hear black dads aren't here, black dads, a lot of different scenarios. And I can't say that I can vouch for any of those. Everybody that I know that's black and a father is handling their business, right? We're kind of hanging out, or we can't hang out because we already know we got obligations we got to do. We got to figure out what we going to do in order to be able to sneak away an hour, 45 minutes to go have a cigar or something like that, right? So I really don't know those stereotypes, and I don't really see those often. Most of the guys that I see are just like myself, trying to make a difference in their child's life, trying to teach them the right way, give them that guidance, and be able to be there for them for the most part. So that's what I try and bring to the table for them the most.
I love that. Brother D, what you got to say on that topic? What's your main role?
Yeah, I mean, I'm often thinking about what is it, if of all the things, because there's so many things we want to pour in to our child or our children. And for me, it came down to these three things, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, and spirituality, in terms of guiding them spiritually, helping them to know that it is bigger than us. It's bigger than, just me or you, to have faith in God and to have faith, period, to believe. Critical thinking in terms of how to maneuver in ways that are going to get you to that goal when you see barriers. But most of all, the emotional intelligence to be able to actually process whatever's happening in front of you. Because I can't guarantee, and I try not to get too dark about it, but I can't guarantee how long I'll be here. But what I can do is the time that I have invested so that she can start to answer the question, like, what would dad say? How would dad think or process this? How do I look at my thoughts as opposed to functioning through my thoughts, right? Because there's a lot of other situations that I may not be present for. And she may not have the luxury of dialing me up or her mother up, right? But she may need to move in that moment. So, and I think these times are dynamic enough to warrant that kind of thinking and that kind of, overall mindset. So that's what I try to leave with her every time that we have some quality time. As a matter of fact, the other day, since you're in Georgia as well, there was that huge storm. It was Sunday night, and we had a power outage. And what was amazing to me, you want to talk about getting soft. It made me nice and warm to know that all I had was the iPad flashlight on, shining on us as we ate, and we talked for about 3.5, 4 hours, just about life and just how certain things take place and how to process certain things that are going on, and just where she's at right now. Because we're also down here. We're going to check out a couple of colleges while we're down here. But just again, the thinking process, right? And what to evaluate and how to maneuver, how to navigate. And then more importantly, how to take that and make it work for her, right? So that she customizes according to, her personality and other things that she's into.
I love that. Keith touched on something that I just was saying the other day because it was Father's Day. So I was texting all my homies, and I realized that, I don't know a lot of bum ass dads. Like, I don't know a lot of not with they kid ass dads. And I don't know if that's my peer group or whatever. I went to a boarding school in Philly. Shout out to Girard College. I only went for 1 year. I got kicked out. I was a badass as a child. But I got all my homies that finished up. We're still tight. Amazing dads. Like, there's a common thread. We were all, Girard College is set up for orphans, so to speak. You're supposed to be a single family home. So here are a bunch of kids that came from areas where they didn't have their dad, all turned out to be amazing dads. My little brother's an amazing father. You have all of these men standing up for their kids, taking care of their kids. And I do agree with you, Keith. We do get a bad rap. But, there are some brothers out here not doing their thing. And it's unfortunate because I've never had a relationship with my dad. And, I'm sure there are things that I don't even know that I missed because I didn't have that relationship. But as I grew older, I never really disliked him I knew who he was, never disliked him as a person for not being there. But I disliked the situation until I had my own kids. And then it turned to, I felt sorry for my dad. I was like, you missed some real dope stuff, homie. Like, These kids crack me up. Having them in my life is the most amazing part of my life. And I have one of my daughters, she's just turned 21 this past week. We went to the Atlanta Zoo. She had some hearing issues as a child, so she has some developmental delays, and she doesn't like to talk. She's very, very quiet. She doesn't like to speak in a lot of situations. So I conned her, and I said, here's how I'm gonna get Zoe to talk. And Zoe doesn't watch, but I love you, Zoe. I read with Zoe every night, and I'm looking up at my mantelpiece, just looking at the books we go through. And I learned something crazy about my daughter, because first couple of books I'm picking out. And I'm like picking out books I think Zoe might like. And then something said, stop treating her like she's 5 because she has little, development. Let her do her thing. Zoe starts picking books out. They all have this science, like sci-fi type of theme. She likes demons, and we read Stephen King's Fairy Tale. And she keeps picking these books. And I was like, I'm learning about my daughter. So we read every night. She reads 3 pages. I read 3 pages without fail. We're through like 17 books at this point. And I look forward to that every night. Zoe calls me, FaceTimes me to read on the dot, 9 p.m. every night. It's important to her. It's important to me. And seeing my children choose to want to do something with me, her younger sister was like, well, why you only read with Zoe? I want to read with you. And so we started reading books, and we read books like I would like to read. We read Atomic Habits, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because she wants to be like dad in that respect. So I want to congratulate and just pat you guys both on the back for being the amazing fathers you are. I want to pivot to the fact that, even though, Keith, you have KJ and I have Trey, named after me as well. We a couple egomaniacs, had to name our kids after us. Yeah. But before I had the boy, I have 5 daughters. So I'm a girl dad. Y'all are both girl dads as well. Let's talk about that dynamic of being a Black man in your daughter's life. What's that feel like for you? Let's see. What do you think about that? As you know, we all love the ladies, whether we're married, single, whatever. We've had our relationships. We know how the male-female dynamic works. We've had our great relationships. We've had our disappointing relationships. How do we navigate and steer that in our daughters' lives?
Yeah, I think, for me, I think it's good when they can get to a certain age where you can start to put the pieces together in terms of things that they may have observed. But from a developmental standpoint, perhaps a maturity standpoint, you still have some restrictions in terms of how you could actually provide some additional context. So I love this time right now because it's like, that's my homie, like that's my daughter. Yes, I'm holding it down, and we talk, father-daughter stuff, but it's also important that I provide her that male perspective from a trusted source, right? So she knows she can trust me. She knows I'm not here to pull the wool over her or anything along those lines. And that is coming from a trusted space. So I love talking about relationships. I love talking about, what my desire was as a father, and even about what the mistakes were, even from her perspective, and having those conversations. I think it's important, especially when we talk about it from the perspective of a Black man. I mean, if there's not a time, and again, I had this other conversation with some women around, men and their ability to communicate. And, I had to share with them politely the fact that women, y'all don't have the tools to actually create a safe space for men. And it's not your fault. Society hasn't created a space for men to be transparent and vulnerable and to really be expressive in terms of feelings, emotions, and things of that nature. And so you don't actually have the tools to create that kind of space for a man to feel vulnerable, to actually go there. I said, but, with your child, especially with your daughter, you have an opportunity. Right, you have an opportunity to be more nurturing, to be more transparent, to be more vulnerable, if you dare to. Now, obviously, you're also fighting some other things, and that is as they get older. At least from my humble perspective, I think a young woman, she starts to look at what are the examples of what other young women and women overall are doing in terms of attitudes towards men, and what they'll try to do is adopt those attitudes and behaviors towards you. And say, okay, well, I should be treating you this way. So I think you have a moment where, and I'm not speaking for all fathers, but I think where your consistency is dad, right? Your consistency regarding how you respond to them and treat them regardless of how they may shift for a second, whether it's because they're becoming a teenager or because they are becoming a young lady, right? That you be consistent in that space, because that is a dynamic. There is another world, so to speak, that they terms of how should they interact with men as they become more mature. So it's a very dynamic time. And I know I said a lot in a little bit of time, but I think that it's very important that we talk about that as men. And I'm glad that you brought that question up.
No, I appreciate the answer. It was wonderfully well-rounded. Brother Keith, what you want to expound upon that? How do you interact with your daughter as a man and showing her what a black man is, in your eyes for her to see?
Absolutely. I'm thankful that my daughter is young enough that I don't have to have those conversations that some of you may have had already. I am going to be calling on y'all to navigate some of those conversations as she gets older. I think right now, though, is building that trust within her, letting her know that I'm that source that she can come to no matter what the situation is. I think a lot of times girls, at least my daughter, tends to be a little bit shyer about coming to me about certain topics. But for whatever reason, I don't really know exactly what it is, but making sure that she feels comfortable, that she can come to me no matter what that situation is and talk to me candidly about any situation, I think is the most important thing right now. And it kind of brought me back to something that happened over Father's Day weekend, right? That was our one day to kind of let loose and do whatever it is that we wanted to do, right? The world was our oyster that weekend, right? So I'm hanging out with the guys. I'm out in New York, chilling with family, everything like that. And of course, the next thing to come to the table is the whiskey and the cigars, right? That's like just what we do. So, I'm smoking a cigar, and my daughter had a discussion with me probably about 2 weeks prior to this, maybe even 3 weeks prior to this, about something that she saw in her classroom where they talked about the effects of smoking and how your lungs could get black and how death can happen and all of these different horrible things that she actually saw. And she knew that I smoked cigars. So when she came home, she said, "Dad, look, you got to cut out the cigars." And I'm like, okay, no problem. So fast forward to this weekend where I'm just sipping on my whiskey. I'm hanging out with the fellas. We chopping it up. And I see her from the corner of my eye like, "Dad, you and I need to have a conversation. Come over here. We need to talk for a second." And, as much as you tend to think, hey, your children need to stay in a child's place, right? They also need to feel that comfort in that when they talk to you and confide in you about something, that you can take that, process it, and really see their points of view. So she kind of checked me pretty much, had a conversation about it. "Look, Daddy, I don't want you to die. I don't need your lungs getting black. I need you to put that cigar down." And I literally put it down, man. I put it down. I tried to sneak and have one more pull throughout the night. She was on me like a hawk, but it's those type of moments to where we had a conversation out here in Pennsylvania. She saw me do it, and I had the respect for what her opinion was to actually say, "You know what, baby, you're right. I'm going to put it down. Daddy is done." And those type of things instill that trust and faith that when she wants to say something to me or if she has an opinion about something that I'm doing, that I'm going to take it in consideration. Those small moments are really the ones that make the difference to me.
I love that. Brother D, I see you wanted to add to that. Yeah, I wanted to see you want to add to that.
Yeah, just one other thing, and I love that too, by the way. Next time, make sure there's no witnesses. But I'm just saying, there's a lot more Father's Days coming up. Is all I'm saying.
Exactly.
But no, I think another thing, take tons of pictures, man. Take tons of pictures, tons of video. A lot of fathers may think, "Oh, that's corny" or whatever. No, you need receipts. One thing that I love most is that even as my daughter, preteen years, and she gets a little distant, she starts smelling herself, she thinks, X, Y, Z, I would just randomly send her another video, another picture, another situation. Here's us again. Because there's nothing like receipts, just random, Dad, you're doing the most. No, you're not. You're just showing how you've always been there. You will be there, God willing. And I think something simple like that, I think, goes a long way too, to just demonstrate, because sometimes people tend to reframe relationships when they're going through something. And I'm not just talking about our parent-children type relationships. I'm talking about all relationships. So I think it's important that you take receipts, man. And that's just my little nuggets on that.
I love it. Both of those points are very well received, and we're going to continue this conversation. I hate to break it to action, but we got a little commercial we drop in the middle of the Financial Power Hour. We're going to move to that right now.
It's funny, they say that man plans and God laughs. When I started Wealth Our Way, it was all about financial planning, trying to help people who came from underserved communities to get the same type of financial knowledge that those who are in the 1% get. But over the course of having Wealth Our Way, I learned a very serious pain point that affects many communities, but especially underserved communities. There just isn't anywhere to go to get estate planning documents, as well as learn about life insurance and retirement planning. So I created a program to solve that, the Wild Wealth Jumpstart. It's a simple program. You get 3 of the most crucial estate planning documents: a simple will, a durable power of attorney, and a healthcare proxy. But on top of that, you get an assessment of where you stand in terms of your retirement planning, as well as a complete indoctrination to all things life insurance. We do that for the low price of $697 or 4 installments of $197. So whether you are planning for your own retirement, looking at getting your own estate documents, or want to help a family member, spread the information about Wealth Our Way and the Wealth Jumpstart. Thank you.
Wealth Our Way on IG. Tune into the Wealth Our Way network on YouTube and share on it. What we're trying to do here is to increase financial awareness, increase the bond inside of our community, and also to spread love amongst other communities. So please, please, please make sure that you share our content. With that being said, we're going to jump back into the comments and questions with the brothers here. So I have, and I'll be completely transparent. You guys hear me? You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because my producer's telling me I'm on mute. Maybe I was at the beginning of the video. So with that being said, I want to talk about when things don't always go well. I pride myself on transparency. I have 6 children. I have my oldest, my 30-year-old Bria. Shout out to the big baby. And then I have the 5 Harris children from my ex-wife, Dana. And when that divorce occurred, my oldest with my ex-wife, Shelby, my second oldest from the marriage, it didn't go well. And let's just say she still don't rock with me. Like literally, we ain't spoken in 2 years. We haven't had a verbal conversation in 2 years. And, I text her, I try to fill the water. It's cold, ice cold. And, something Donovan said earlier about safe space for men and our abilities to be vulnerable. I'm vulnerable on this topic all the time, and I'm transparent on this topic all the time. And what I try to explain to people is I feel like I have to give my daughter her space to be mad at me. I have to give her her space to be angry for however long it takes. One of the comparisons I like to make is I say, and I'm no way a good steward to follow when it comes to Christianity or God, but the one thing I take from not having a dad is I had to find some example that I could pin my mantra to. So I chose God. God is Father. And what I feel about God as Father, I keep it real simple. God loves all his kids. You don't even have to claim him as your dad. You don't have to believe in him. He believes in you, though. God will love you because you are his child, regardless of what you do. You can smite him, stab at him. He's going to love you. You're his child. Can't lose that. God gives his favor, his grace, and his mercy to the children that show him reverence, that show him obedience, that show him love. So that's kind of how I've, chose to go with my daughter. If my daughter were to text me right now, this program would end. I'd go be with her. I'd love her. I'd cry in front of her, whatever she needs for us to move forward. But because that love can't go anywhere. But there's a certain level of, Father's Day, you don't get the happy Father's Day, you don't get the happy birthday. You got to say at some point, I get the message and I'm gonna let you live and do your thing. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but I'm not going to keep chasing after you. And I want to talk about, it sounds like you guys don't have that experience, but if you've seen it with other friends or even just commenting on my situation, for fathers out there that have strained relationships, and I'm blessed. I got one, I was just talking to my ex-wife's husband a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about my second oldest, Shelby, because he's like, she loves you, man. We got to figure this out. And I said, look, I'm a math guy. I went to school for actuarial science. I'm a big stat guy. Statistics told me I was going to have one child that thought I walked on water, one child that hated me, and the other one's on a range in between. And that's exactly what I got. My oldest, you can't say nothing bad about her daddy. My boy and my youngest 3 girls, they rock with me. That second child, I don't think she coming to the funeral, y'all. Like, it's crazy. So what do y'all think about strained relationships, and how would you handle that as dad?
Yeah, so you know me, Tank. I've done a lot of relationship coaching as well. So this is something that I definitely have observed, as well as I talked a little bit about it in my last comment, and that is, when your child may stray from you, where there may be a situation where it's not, business as usual, if you will, and how you got to remain consistent. And I don't think that changes at all here. I know that there's no one that can hurt you like your child, okay? No one. Like, the mother of your child, your wife, your ex-wife, whoever, let them try, right? Even your mom. And people may say, nah, they disagree. I totally disagree with everybody. If you think you love your child, there's no one that can hurt you more than your child. So I think in many instances, often we also, we look at that child like the mate in some ways. And I don't mean it in a sick or sexual way. I don't mean it in that way at all. I'm just talking about how they can hurt your feelings like someone that you're in love with, right? And it really is painful. But I think at the end of the day, the same is required of you. And that is for you to love like God did, like you said. Now, I'm just flipping it around on you now, right? You're talking about how God will love his children regardless, but also you have to move and be consistent regardless. So even at the end of the day, when you say chasing, I'm going to politely push back and say that's the ego that we have within us that says they even use that word chasing. And say, no, I'm just going to love on you. So as I have a thought about you, I'm going to let you know that I'm thinking about you. Even when the man side of you is like, no, she ain't replied to the last text or the last phone call. No, that's not it. Because if you're going to love like how God loved the church, right? It's agape. And agape love is love for love's sake. So at the end of the day, you need to love for love's sake, not love on the traditional quid pro quo example of love that we see everywhere. If you do this, if you do this, then I'll do that, right? So all I'm going to say, I'm going to wrap up my comments, but bottom line, love regardless. Be consistent. When you have that thought, when you have the desire to reach out, do that. And your consistency will be the receipt. That'll be the tale that's told at the end of the day, because at some point when you do come back, the one thing that you want is to be like, regardless of how crazy it was, I was consistent in demonstrating that I'm here for you, that I love you, and that this is only a stage or a phase, not the state of our relationship.
I love that. And I 100% stamp and certify that. I feel that. Brother Keith, I know you happily married, got the 2 kids at the crib. You ain't been, you might have to get the sofa every so often, but you ain't been put out in the street yet. So you don't know this side of the coin, bro. But speak on what you know.
Yeah, I think honestly, what I thought about when I heard it the most was I thought about myself, right? I was out of pocket when I was younger, man. I was very out of pocket, and it was one of those things where my dad and I didn't have the greatest relationship when I was in my teen years, right? I was kind of smelling myself. I was rapping. People was feeling me. I was in my own zone, so to speak, right? But one thing that I realized, and it took years later for me to recognize, is that a lot of our friction came from the similarities that we actually had. Yes. We were very, very similar people in terms of how we felt principle was, how we felt a person should act towards us, and things of that nature. So a lot of our combat and friction came off the fact that we were in essence very similar as a person. And it took me getting into the adulthood and seeing, not necessarily as a father yet, but being an adult, seeing what responsibilities look like, seeing what these other things that I have to do once you get to a certain age look like. And especially once I moved out and Now it's like it's on you. When those things became reality, the more those soundtracks of what my dad would say to me when I was in his house played back to back, right? I was like, oh man, I should have listened to him when he was saying a lot of those things. Now we have one of the tightest relationships that we could ever have. So I think that in your space, much like Donovan said, I don't think that it's a time for, not saying that you're giving up, but falling back. I don't think that you need to fall back per se. I think also you have to understand that maybe it's just not you, right? It might be that she's working out some things that she's going through right now. As children, we go through ebbs and flows just like an adult does. And, right now it may seem like she doesn't necessarily rock with you, but I'm quite sure if there was something that was really about to hit the fan, she would go to bat for you, right? I think that that's one of those things that you got to keep into consideration. Everything is all relative in terms of how much she doesn't rock with you. It depends on the situation. But as he would say, as Donovan said, stay consistent in what you're doing. Continue to be there. Continue to actually feed that plant, water that plant, nurture it, and give her that opportunity to eventually come back and maybe change her tone. And I think that y'all be very well off in the future with that.
I appreciate that, brothers. And yeah, that's what I did. Like after I finished talking to her stepfather, he's like, nah, she misses you. She wants to see you. I was like, nah, man. She, if I needed 6 pallbearers, I got 6 kids. I'm gonna need a stand-in for Shelby. She ain't coming. But he's like, man, y'all are so much alike, and this, and this. Yeah. I was like, we are. That's the rub. Like that is probably my child. Everybody says my son stole my face. He got my name and all that. But me and my second oldest are definitely the most alike of all my children. And so after I left, meeting with her stepdad, I said, okay, she didn't return the last text, but as Donovan said, whenever you think about it, boom. So I text her. I came up with this idea. Her tongue is slick as mine. That's really how we got here with some verbals. And I said, I got an idea. I said, Shelby, why don't you meet me this weekend? I'll pick you up. We'll go. Let's have a silent brunch. And I said, I'll pick you up. I'll open the door. We won't say anything to each other. We'll go eat. I'll drop you home. Because we can't seem to say nothing to each other without a fight ensuing. So let's just try and be in each other's presence without talking as a first step. Crickets, no response. And I was cool with it. Like I said, and I have to keep reminding myself of that example I gave about God and loving his child no matter what, is I don't want to get to where so many women tell men they are in their adult relationships with women, which is, I've been through so much drama with women that I'm not prepared to go through it anymore. So now I am this shut down, non-communicative guy you accuse me of being. So I don't want that to happen with Shelby. I don't want there to be the day where she finally says, okay, I'm not as mad anymore. Dad, let's go talk. And I'd be like, nah, boo, I don't rock with you no more. I don't want that ever to be the case. So I keep it fresh and keep it live on my end because I feel I owe her that. And this comes in the face of me having a lot of my friends who know the entire story try to say negative things about Shelby to me. Oh, she's ungrateful. She doesn't know. That's my baby. Like, I know you love me and I know you're trying to make me feel better, but that's still my baby girl. She's just going through something. Hopefully it comes around. But I do feel as though, and this is something that I've talked to her mother about, I have to respect what she's saying to me when she was speaking to me, which is one of the last things she said to me. I was like, yeah, well, you seem unhappy. She said, no, I'm not unhappy. I have a great life. The only part of my life that's not great is that you're in it. And I was like, okay, cool. I got to remove myself then. If somebody really told me that their life was great and I'm the thorn in the rose, I'm going to pull the thorn for them because I want them to enjoy the rose. And, her mom was like, she said that out of anger. I said, I don't disagree. However, I can't look her in the eye and disregard what she's saying and call her a liar and not give her her platform. If she's saying that, I'm going to receive it just to acknowledge that I understand how she's feeling. Whether I agree with her or think she's fronting or not really isn't the issue. So
I agree, but let me just say also though, it's important that you also acknowledge how that hurts, right? How that feels. There is a sense of rejection. There's a sense of, I may have failed in some kind of way in terms of how, the relationship that I wanted to have versus what I'm experiencing right now. So I think it's important to deal with that, to be very present in that. And that's ugly. It don't feel good. It chokes you up. It brings tears. It's a whole bunch of things. And I think, and I'm grateful to you for bringing this platform and also your transparency in the space, because it is a safe space to have it. And for anyone who's struggling with this conversation, it's okay that you're struggling with it, because there's not enough of it. But not to be critical of it, right? I think also it's important that demonstrating consistency. That's easier said than done. Like, let's be honest. Even if you were to be like, okay, yeah, let's talk and have the conversation. There's a part of you that's going to be like, yo, there's that thing you said. There's a thing that is how I felt during this time in X, Y, and Z, and to be present about that, because I think ultimately that's what we are fighting as men, is the ability to actually say, hey, by the way, I actually can feel pain. I can be hurt. I can struggle with trying to stay connected when you keep turning me down and not responding to my gestures. I don't want to seem soft, but I keep coming back to you even after you're still ignoring me. But I think also, as you use such a great example in terms of being God-like, I think at the end of the day, what better demonstration of your belief system, of your faith and your vision overall, than to treat it as just that, a stage, a period, a phase, or whatever, and continue to kind of just be resilient and say, you know what, you may not be talking to me today, but I'm talking to you. Yeah, I'm letting you know that so that will not be erased. You may not feel like you need me today, but there may be a moment where I want to be top one, top two of who comes to mind when you have that experience, or unfortunately that may happen that's out of our control. So I think ultimately, two things need to happen in order for you to continue to be stronger than whatever it is that's opposing you, and that is being present so that you can let out that release valve emotionally and spiritually, and then two, being able to still activate, right, and say, okay, what example, what demonstration of my love can I put forth, and do it in a way that's organic and I'm going to say sucker free, in terms of the petty emotions and things that are real, because you feel that, like, you're like, no, I'm looking at my phone, there is no response, she left me on red, like, that's real, right? Let's not, this isn't brought to you by Disney,
right?
But to say, hey, okay, that happened, but in this situation, who's going to demonstrate the wisdom and the guidance and the vision that a father is supposed to bring to the table, even though I might still be leaking from the jabs that I'm currently getting. And I think this is a perfect moment to show how I am different, and how there are examples of me that also may be out here in this world, because that's what we're fighting as men, period. The fact that we don't exist, these conversations don't exist. Why this isn't broadcasted across the world and more examples of it is not an accident. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but you get it.
I loved everything you say, and I appreciate you. And I knew this was going to happen today, because all the time when I'm on the show, the hour just creeps up on me. But I knew we were going to run through this hour, because the conversation was going to be deep and connected. So we have about 6 minutes left. I'm going to ask each of you something that just really organically came into my head. You on your way to the upper room, as I like to say, you in your casket, your daughter's, grown, let's say this happens 20, 30 years from now. Keith, you got your daughter and the son. What do you want them to be saying about Pop on this day?
I want them to say Dad was solid. That's all. Just that he believed in me. He was there for me. I think that most dads that I could think of that are doing their thing, we very simple. We very simple in terms of what we need and what we desire. And I think one of the things is mostly respect for what we've done and what we've been through, right? And I think that that's the most important for me. I don't really need any major accolades or anything along those lines, but just for my children to know that I was there for them and tried to guide them in the right way, as well as open them up to opportunities that they may not have thought they had early on in life, that as you get older, you start to see, hey, well, I can be an entrepreneur. I can reach for these heights that may not have seemed reality when they were younger. I think that's the most important to me. And really quick, just to not to take the light off of anything, but I want to go back a little bit to that recent topic that we were just talking about. And one of the things that I wanted to put a pin on was brothers need to actually talk to people also, right? I think that a lot of times we start to feel that stigma of, hey, I don't want to go to a therapist. I don't want to go to somebody to talk about what my issues are, especially within the Black society. And I think that that's one of those things that's a major detriment for us as Black men. You know, I have no issues in saying that, hey, I got somebody I chop it with all the time, right? It's not that I got issues in my life, but it's one of those things when I need to vent, when I need to get things out, when I need to just get my point of view, or even bounce it off of somebody to see whether I'm bugging or not, right? To see whether I'm not on the right kilter, or if I'm not looking at something 100% right. You need those type of voices, and you need it in an unbiased way. And a lot of times we don't have that. A lot of other people do, because there's a lot of outlets for it. But I think the stigma and how we stereotype ourselves, we tend to say, hey, we don't need that, when really we do. And I think that we need to start to look at life a little bit more realistically and say, you know what, it's nothing wrong with having that person that you're needing to talk to and to bounce those things off of.
I love it, man. That's all well and good, and I'm in therapy. I believe in it as well, so I completely support that. Brother D, you know the eulogy's been read. You know, baby girl is in the wake. You know, talking to people about dad. What you wanted to say?
No, I want her to say that her dad was godlike. That's all. I'm glad that you used that example, but that's it. That that he believed in me, that he loved me regardless, that he showed me grace, that he let me know that he can do, that I can do anything, and that he's willing to help. Right. So I just being godlike, and also the only thing that she knows that I want from her is that relationship. That's it. I want the relationship. I want the ability for you to consider me as a resource when you're going through it, when you want to celebrate something, when you ideation. I love the fact right now she's in an entrepreneur mindset. So I love having a conversation with her, talking about products and service, margins and sales and commission and operations and I light up. That's my bag right there. So I enjoy having that conversation with her. And so I just want to be useful to be a part of the solution. Period. And just to echo what Keith said and what you talked about, therapy, counseling is everything. Period. It's probably the most rare of spaces as a Black man in terms of being able to engage and have some intimate dialogue about your challenges, your fears, your beliefs, or even just the ability to even be organically excited about something that's happening in life, right? That full range of emotions and thoughts. I think it's very important that we have a space to be able to do that. And thank you for leveraging this space again to bring that other dimension out.
Thank you, brothers, for being here, man. We are at the end, and I hope everybody got something from today's conversation. I just want to say this in closing. I love both you brothers. I love who you are for your children. You are needed. You are appreciated. You the blueprint. You cats are the tip of the sword, and your children are better off for having you in their lives. The community is better off for having fathers like you. I hope more people become the example that you're setting. So I thank both of you guys. I thank you all for watching the Financial Power Hour. We will be back here in a month. And I want you always to remember, wealth is not only for the wealthy. You guys take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wild Network. For more great content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page at Wealth Our Way Network. Also, don't forget to follow us on IG and Facebook. Remember, wealth is not only for the wealthy.